Hey everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, we're going to get started here in 30 seconds. Hi everyone, so nice to see you. All right, while we are waiting, can you just put in the chat where you're calling from and if you are a board member, an executive director, or something else, just so I have a sense of who all is in the room with us today. So, if you're new to me, I am Ria Wong. I am a 20-year veteran of nonprofit leadership, and I'm also currently a board member, so I sympathize deeply with your pain. I feel your pain. All right. Board chair, ED. Okay. Uh, all right. Board chair. Yes, love it. Yay! Welcome, board chairs, board members. Lovely to see you all. Oh gosh, I love a board member. Okay. I am going to go ahead and get us started. We have 200 folks registered today, so we have a pretty full house. Just some housekeeping details here. Please keep your camera on if you can, just because I love to see everyone's beautiful face. We will be using the chat pretty actively. It will be participatory. As questions come up, my team will be collecting them and I'll get to them at the end, simply because I don't want to go too far afield. Um, we have 90 minutes today, which is a really fulsome. Likely we won't necessarily need the full 90, but I am committed to staying online until I answer every single question that you have. Last bit of business too, just to know, we have a free gift for you if you stick around to the end. It is a board fundraising playbook that I put together myself. I have to say I'm quite proud of it. So you will get that for free as a thank you for sticking with us to the end. So let's get started, shall we? Oh, Mike, I'm sorry to hear that you're sick, but I hope you feel better. But thank you for being with us. You can just lay back and let the vibes take you. All right, let's get into this. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm glad to see that a lot of us are board members because this is what today's presentation is for. I created this especially for you as a board member. Like I mentioned before, I am Ria Wong. I am a 20-year veteran of nonprofit leadership and executive director, current board member. So I constructed this because I understand what you're going through. So let me tell you a little bit of a story before we get started. I'm going to tell you about a board member. I'm going to call her Sarah to protect the innocent here. So Sarah joined a board that she absolutely loved. She was smart, she was connected, she was generous. And the ED came to her and said, "Hey, Sarah, we need your help with fundraising." So Sarah, being a good board member, said, "Of course, what can I do?" And then the ED said, "Go get names of your friends with money and we'll ask them for gifts." So Sarah, being a good board member, made a list and then she froze. So she thought, if I ask my friend Janet for money, won't Janet feel like I'm just using her? Won't she think I only called because I needed something? So Sarah didn't do anything. And every board meeting, she felt a little bit guilty. And frankly, the ED felt frustrated because she wasn't seeing any movement on Sarah's end. And Janet, who was the person who Sarah could potentially ask, never knew that she could have made a real difference. And frankly, that is a story that I hear every day. In fact, that is a story that I have lived myself. And so today, I want to talk about how we change the story, how we see a different kind of an impact. Oopsies. Sorry, I'm having technical issues here. All right. There we go. Okay. So just curious, and you don't have to put in the chat. I speak to board members every single day. I talk to leaders and executive directors every single day. And here's what I hear people tell me offline. They say, I'll do anything except ask for money. Or they think, if I ask someone, they'll ask me back. Or they say, I feel guilty at every single board meeting because I really haven't done anything. And here's what I really need you to know here. You're not broken. You are not lazy. You are not a bad board member. You are having a completely rational response to a completely broken system. And so the system, not you, is the problem. And I'm going to show you today how to fix it. So I'm going to launch a couple polls. So poll number one, because I just want to get a sense of what is resonating here. Which of these is your story? So team, can we launch the poll? All right, so I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Uh-huh. Okay. Really interesting answers coming through. All right. All right. Let's stop the poll and let's share the answers. So interesting. So some of us have said we avoid fundraising entirely. Some of us have said, I've tried it. It felt really awkward. Some of us said, I give my gift and think that's enough. Some of us have said, I am afraid I'm a bad board member. The vast majority of us have said, I want to help, but I don't know how. Here's the good news. You are not alone and you are not the problem. The system is the problem. And that's actually good news because the system can be fixed. So let's share the results. Sorry, I thought that was shared. So we all see kind of where we're sitting. All right, put in the chat. How does this make you feel? I wonder if folks have felt like maybe they were alone in this. Let's see. Validated, anxious. Okay. Thank you. And you all, just so you know, this is a place of no judgment. I've been in your shoes. I'm currently in your shoes. So no shame, no shade. Okay. Yes, there is a solution, friends. Okay, let's get into it. All right. So I want you to meet the villain of nonprofit fundraising. The villain in this story is not your ED. It is not you. It's not even your donors. The villain is a broken model. So it's a model that's been around for 50 years and it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work with the donors of today. The model basically that we have all inherited is go get names of rich people, make some calls, ask for money. That's the whole strategy. And it's killing your relationships. When you go straight to asking without building trust, oh, we're going to mute some. Okay. Lindsay sounds like she's having an exciting time. So when you go straight to asking without building trust or without understanding what matters to them or without showing them that they're partners in something meaningful, they feel targeted. They feel used. And the worst part, you feel like a user. You start to believe you are a bad board member because really what's actually happened is you're being asked to do something that simply does not work. Let me talk a little bit about how the broken model plays out. So you get a list of names, people you know, people you kind of know, people that LinkedIn says you know, which we all know, not really people I necessarily know. And then someone calls them, then you call them without context, or you have your ED pressure you to call them. There's no real relationship. You don't really understand what they care about. And the donor thinks, why are they calling me? Or, oh, they want money. So they feel blindsided. It feels transactional. They feel used. And sometimes they make a small gift to kind of make you go away. I call that mariachi money. Or they say no, or they don't even respond. They ghost you. And now the relationship is damaged. The donor won't give again. They won't introduce you to others. Your organization just lost what could have been a $50,000 relationship because you asked for 5,000 the wrong way. So this is happening right now at your organization, probably today. Put in the chat if you feel that this is resonating with you. Have you seen this? Yes. Yeah, totes. Okay, cool. Glad we're in the same place. All right. So here's the risk of what is happening with this old model. The cost isn't just money, it's relationships. And I don't know about you, but to me, my reputation and my relationships are the most valuable things I have. I mean, I've spent a lifetime building a reputation as a certain kind of person, right? When you follow this model, you are burning trust, you're burning sustainability, and you're damaging your relationship. And every time a staff member has to clean up after a poorly timed ask, they get burnt out. And every time a donor feels used, they tell others. I've seen boards full of potential become paralyzed by guilt. I've seen brilliant EDs become exhausted carrying everything alone. And I see donors who could have, maybe would have given $100,000, give nothing because they felt used. So this model doesn't just cost you money, it costs you everything. And the worst part about it is it's preventable, it's fixable, but only if you understand what is broken. So live poll here. How is this broken model showing up for you? And remember, I'm going to be saying the word system like a bajillion times, but how is this broken system showing up for you? I'll give you 30 seconds here. Okay. And for folks who are joining us, as questions are coming up, put it in the chat. My team will be collecting it. We'll do Q&A at the end. And for those who stick around to the end, we have a special gift, which is a board fundraising playbook. So we'll give that to you as a free gift for sticking with us. So, all right, I'm closing this poll. Let's share these results. Uh-oh. All right. Are we seeing this? How is this showing up for you? So it looks like the vast majority of us we're terrified, and it's why I avoid, or all of the above. Again, it's not you. It is the system. It's not because anyone is bad, it's because the system is broken. So here's what I want you to know. There is a completely different way. All right. So here's the big reveal that I want to share with you all. Fundraising isn't one thing. This broken model that we have makes it seem like it is. Solicitation, go ask for money. But the truth is really much more nuanced here. There are actually 6 distinct stages a donor grows through. And here's the beautiful part is your board can show up powerfully in all 6, but only one of these pieces requires you to ask for money. The other 5 things are things you do naturally. You just didn't know that they counted as fundraising. So this is the secret that changes everything. Are you all still with me? If you're ready for how this works, put yes in the chat. I just want to make sure that we're all awake here. It's Tuesday. I don't know where you are in the world. I'm in San Francisco. It's now 9:12 in the morning. So I'm just waking up. The coffee's kicking in. All right. Great, great, great. Okay. Here's what you are going to know. So many of us, especially those of us who are career fundraisers, have been brought up with a model, right? It usually looks like a circle, and it's usually identify, qualify, cultivate, solicit, steward. If that makes no sense to you, don't worry about it. So I'm going to walk you through what I consider to be the new model of fundraising for today's donors. So let's go through this step by step. First step is engagement. So it's not identify, right, which is how we've usually known it. And what that typically looks like in identify is we're going to do a wealth screen, we're maybe going to do a Google search, we're maybe going to look at other competitor nonprofits, donor lists, and say, hey, we're going to target these people. We don't give any context here of like, do we have any relationship with these people? Have they demonstrated interest? Have they opened any of our emails? Have they shown up for any of our events? Do we know that the timing is right? So engagement, I think, is a much more nuanced way to think about how to find donors. Now, engagement means that someone first hears about your work. Maybe it's an event, maybe it's an introduction. You're not asking for anything, you're sharing your passion. Okay. Second piece is what I call preliminary qualification. Backing up a little bit, I think most nonprofits skip qualification or do very light qualification of their prospects. And as a result, everything breaks down the line because they end up spending a lot of time and energy talking to people who are never qualified to give in the first place. So let's talk about preliminary qualification. Preliminary qualification means that they're showing interest, that we've ascertained they have capacity, that the timing is right, that they have a reason for giving, right? There are 1.8 million nonprofits in this country. Why yours? Why now? Why them? And this is key, that you have permission. I'm big on consent. And where I see a lot of people making mistakes is they add people to their portfolio without ever asking them if they wanted to be in the portfolio. So these are the 5 things that we're looking for in pre-qualification. But we're not done yet. Then we move into a full qualification process. In the full qualification process, we actually have a conversation. And in that conversation, we clarify their capacity, we clarify their relationship, we invite them into a process. So we're very clear that the reason why we're going to continue this conversation is that we want to get to know each other, and the relationship, if and when it feels right, will result in a co-created proposal for funding. At that point, people can opt in or opt out, but at least they're clear about, well, why you keep calling me. Then we move into the cultivation process. And this is the part where I know a lot of you really shine. This is the getting to know you phase. This is the whining, the dining, the schmoozing, the taking them out for coffee, the showing them the program, the introducing them to the participants. This is the part everybody loves. They see the work in action. They meet people. Now the relationship is real. Then we get into the solicitation. And the way that I teach this model is that because we've done qualification, because we've been clear about our intentions, the solicitation comes very naturally because we co-create a proposal for funding. It's not a random ask. It doesn't feel like a guess. A lot of times I see nonprofit fundraisers pull numbers out of thin air, like, well, I think this person could be good for a $50,000 gift. If you don't know, if you haven't had a conversation, then it feels random, right? So the solicitation, because there is a process, feels natural, feels collaborative, feels aligned. And I know it can be scary to talk about money, but so this is the only part of the process that feels quote unquote scary, but not if you have a process, not if you have a system. And then finally, stewardship. This is I like to call it the halo effect, right? This person has given their gift. I imagine since a lot of you are board members, you also give directly to your nonprofit. This is the feel good stuff. This is the show me what my money has done. Show me what my money has made possible. Show me how I've been part of this impact. We love this part. And as board members, this is where you can really shine. Okay, let me pause. Is this resonating for folks? Just put in the chat. Okay. So Kirsten, I see your question. We're going to get to the end, but essentially, just for clarity, solicitation means the asking for money, the part of the relationship where you're asking for the value exchange. Okay. Now, if we've done our work well, it will feel like a natural exchange for money. The reason why people tend to not give gifts again, to repeat the gifts, is that they didn't get value out of the gift. And by value, I don't necessarily mean stuff. I don't necessarily mean, oh, I wanted my name on a building. Most of us are not those kind of givers. What I mean by value is, did you allow me the opportunity to bask in this generous gift, right? Did you give me the good feelings that I was looking for by giving this gift? Because I give for a reason. I give because I want something to happen in the world. I want to save the whales. I want kids to go to college. I want to feed the hungry. If you have not given me the feeling of the gift that I gave, then I'm unlikely to give again, right? Because I want to know that I made a difference. And if you haven't given me the opportunity to feel the difference, I'm not going to give again. I'm going to give to somebody else who helps me feel that feeling. Okay. All right. Let's see. Are folks with me? Okay. All right. Now, here's where it gets really good. As board members, here is your role. In engagement, the board leads. You all know people. You make introductions. Now, here's what I want to be clear about. The reason why, and put yes in the chat if you agree with this, the reason why some board members are reluctant to introduce their network is I don't know what you're going to do with it, right? I don't trust as a fundraiser that you're going to treat people with the kind of respect that is not going to embarrass me. Is that yes? Yes. Yes. Okay. Jennifer says yes. Don't embarrass me. But when we have a system that is consent-based and very strategic and well thought out, then as a board member, you know exactly what's going to happen with your people. And you also know that the nonprofit, that your fundraiser will respect the boundaries. So if this person that you introduce is like, yeah, this is not my thing, cool. Then as a fundraiser, because I have a system, I have a way to help them to lean out. Now, in the old model, what this looked like is if I introduce my friend, basically a fundraiser might like hound them for a gift, like Jaws, right? Like going after them again and again, even when they indicate that this is not for them. That is embarrassing. Okay, now, so the board is leading on that. But here's where board members can also help. In the pre-qualification phase, the board helps. In the qualification phase, you can participate. In the cultivation phase, you can participate. The solicitation piece is led by the staff. You could certainly participate, but staff leads. And then in the stewardship, the board participates. So out of the 6 stages, you are only leading in one and you're helping or participating in the others. This is not the same as go get names and make phone calls. This is not scary. This is partnerships. So what you're already doing works, but we're just being more intentional with it. So the big breakthrough here is you've been avoiding this because you've been given the wrong job. This is the moment everything shifts. You haven't been avoiding because you're broken. You've been avoiding because you were given the wrong job. You were told, be a salesperson, but your actual job is lead in engagement, help in qualification, deepen in cultivation, lead in stewardship. You already know how to do those things. You do them at work, you do them with your friends, you do them in your community. We're just asking you to do them intentionally for your board. And that's not scary, that's natural. So hear this if you hear nothing else on this call. Your board doesn't need to change. Your system needs to change. And that is fixable. So let me take a breath, wondering how that is landing for folks. Do you feel any kind of relief that it's not you, that it's the system? If that's true for you, put relief in the chat. Huge relief. Thank you, Laura. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Question here. Drop in the chat. Which of the 6 stages are you naturally strongest in? So let me go back so you know. Are you naturally strongest? Are you naturally a connector, introducing people? So that would be engagement. Are you naturally good at prelim qual or qualification? Prelim qual tends to be the people who have the tea, who know the real deal about all of the people and what they're about, and if they just got a new vacation home, et cetera, et cetera. Or are you a lover? You're great at cultivating. Or are you an asker? Like some of us are out here, they'd love to ask. Or are you a stewardship person? Are you all about the afterglow? Are you all about making people feel good about the gift that they gave? All right, let's see. Engagement, qualification. All right. Connector. Okay, cool. So we can see here that a lot of you already naturally do these things, right? So it's not scary. It's just a question of making sure that we're systematizing it and it being intentional about it. Because as board members, you all have your superhero powers. And what I am guessing for many of you is that you haven't been able to fully exercise your superhero power because there hasn't been a system in place. So what happens when you implement all 6 stages is that donors never feel blindsided. They feel genuinely seen and understood, and they feel like partners in something meaningful. Your board feels clear about their role. So there's no more guessing, there's no more guilt. Relationships don't burn, they deepen. Donors who should give 10,000 give 50,000. Donors who give once give 3 times. Your organization's revenue doesn't spike and crash, it grows predictably. And staff isn't carrying the whole burden alone. So everyone is contributing from their natural strength. This is what becomes possible when you have a system. Put in the chat here, and I feel this so deep in my soul. As a board member, it is my fiduciary responsibility to oversee the finances of the organization. How many of you have ever been frustrated that you couldn't get a straight answer about what we can expect next quarter or what is in the pipeline for the year? And I'm just sort of like, okay, sure. Yes, right. No, Amy says no, that's cool. But as people who are responsible for the fiduciary health of our organization, I would like a little bit more clarity. I would like to see the pipeline. I would like to see some data about where we're going to end the quarter. How are we projecting out for the next 3 quarters? What are we going to end the year at? Are we going to have to pull back on programming? Are we going to be able to do the expansion? It's hard to make strategic decisions if you have no idea what your revenue looks like. Okay. So when you have a system, this isn't theoretical. These are real organizations who went through with me and they saw some real results. So Breakthrough Sacramento went from 300,000 to 1 million in 1 year, not through gimmicks, not through events, through clarity about the 6 stages. One board leader has a 100% hit rate on solicitations. You know why? Because she only asked people who'd been through all 5 stages first. They weren't cold calls, they were facilitated partnerships. Let's Get Ready just closed the largest individual gift in their history, which is a $500,000 gift from one person. What changed for them was not their board, it was their system. This is what becomes possible when you stop using the broken model and start using the real one. So I want to ground this in reality. One of my clients, Karen Herring, she's the founder of Library in West Virginia. And a lot of people come to me and say, there's no money in my area, right? There's no money in West Virginia. Or they tell me stories like if you're in an area like New York City or San Francisco or LA or Houston, oh, there's too much competition. Everyone else has already given all of their money, right? So we tell ourselves stories about why fundraising isn't working. So anyway, Karen came to me and said, there's no money in West Virginia. So before we started working together, her fundraising felt random and fear-based. Solicitations came in when like people kind of felt like it. Her board was not activated. What we were able to do when we implemented the system is we gave her a clear plan and clear steps and structure to move people into intentional conversations. And ever since that happened, and this is in less than a year, this happened within 9 months, she has a new 25K donor. She has a new legacy donor and another in consideration. By legacy donor, I mean people who are considering leaving her organization in their will. She moved a sporadic donor into a monthly recurring gift, and she has a 6-figure donor in active proposals. And it's not because she did anything differently. She did a lot differently. She didn't work harder, right? I think a lot of times have this idea of, "Oh, I just need to grind harder." It's about working smarter, not harder. What we did is we structured her and we showed her board exactly where they could lean in with their superhero power, and we've started to build the momentum. So I want to share another story with you that shows what happens when you skip the stages. So there's another board member I know. Let's call her Karen. Real names have been changed. So let's call her Karen. So Karen knew a wealthy donor named Michael. And this happens to be an education organization. She knew Michael cared deeply about education. The ED had done research, etc. And the ED said to Karen, "Can you go and see if you can get a gift from Michael?" And what Karen didn't know is that Michael had been thinking about giving for years. And she didn't know that he'd never given because nobody had asked him the right way. So she kind of cold called him and she said, "Michael, we need money. Will you give?" Michael thought, wow, Karen only calls when she needs something. So at that point, he gave $5,000 basically to get off the call. Now, if Karen had followed the 6 stages, or if Karen's ED had known what the 6 stages were and orchestrated the approach, Michael likely would have been he likely would have given a $50,000 gift because he would have known about the work, he would have been qualified to know what his capacity was, he would have been cultivated with activities that he cared about, and then at the solicitation stage, he would have had a co-created process. And so this one story illustrates what happens when you don't have a system. You end up leaving money on the table. Okay, let me take a breath. This is a lot of information. So here's what I need you to know right now. You should be having a feeling, and I don't want you to feel panic, but there's clarity is what's at stake. So frankly, your board probably is operating in the broken model. You're probably jumping to stage 5 without going through stages 1 through 4. And what that means is that donors are being damaged, relationships are being burned, and money is being left on the table. And the longer you wait, the harder it is to repair. So a burned relationship is one of the hardest things to fix. You might never get the donor back. That's not a maybe, that's a real cost. So urgency does matter. And this is not artificial pressure. Real money is at stake. So if you are like many of the nonprofits that I've seen over the last year, your end of year fundraising probably looked like your small dollar donors dropping off, right? Smaller people who are either not giving again or giving smaller amounts, and your entire individual portfolio is being held up by a few very large givers. And so without a system, over time, especially if one or two of those large givers decide not to give again, your entire system collapses. So let me pause here. Has anyone seen that happening in their portfolio, that this last go around, this last giving Q4, you had a lot of the smaller dollar donors either retract or not give again, and your whole portfolio is held up by a couple of big givers? If that is what you've seen, put yes in the chat. Yep. Okay, cool. Not cool, but glad that we're trending. All right. Okay, so you already know this problem needs to be fixed. We can't wait another year, another quarter. Like, this has to be fixed now. So let's launch this poll here. 30 seconds. What's at stake for you? Wow, this is coming fast if you're. Oh, okay, there's one very clear winner here. I'm going to close this poll in 5 seconds. All right. We're ending this poll. We're sharing the results. So it looks like 53% of us have identified that we are missing huge giving opportunities because we have not been intentional about the stages. And I'm not going to say that's good, but I'm glad that you've received that clarity based on what I've presented to you today. All right, let me pause here. Reactions to that. What feeling are you feeling right now? Just put one word in the chat. I'm just curious about where your head's at right now. Encouraged, lost, bummed, frustrated, excited for the future. Okay, overwhelmed, stressed out. All right, friends, it's okay. Take a breath. There is a way forward. All right. I do want to say, and I'm not saying this to make you feel stressed or frustrated or overwhelmed, but you know that this has to be fixed, right? Like you can't let this sucking chest wound keep going and throw a band-aid on it. Because that looks like is maybe this month one relationship might get damaged by a poorly timed ask. That compounds though. So this quarter you might lose 50,000 or more in potential gifts. Joaquin, then this year your board becomes more paralyzed, your staff more burned out, your donors more transactional. What this looks like next year is you have the same broken system and the same results, or worse, based on what we've been seeing in the giving trends. Again, I just have to reiterate for you, the cost isn't just money, it's relationships, it's trust, it's sustainability. And the damage that you are going to sustain is cumulative. So a board member, a relationship that you burn in April is going to be burned all year. They're not magically going to get resurrected in June or December. But here's what I also want you to know. Once you decide to fix it, momentum can build quickly. So organizations that implement the system see results in their first quarter. So the question is, when do you decide? Right now, it's April. Are you going to decide to fix this now, or are you going to decide in December when it is too late to do anything? The truth is, major donors are making decisions and doing research about where they're going to give right now, not necessarily in December. So the organizations that are going to come out ahead are the ones that are engaging these folks now to see the fruits of their labor in December. And by the way, just so you know, it takes about 18 months from start to finish to close a major gift. So the question is, when are you going to start? As I say, the best time to start is yesterday. The second best time is today. What changes when you implement a system, when you get intentional about your strategy, is that you, as a board member, get clarity about your role in all of these 6 stages. So there's no more guessing, there's no more guilt. Your ED stops carrying this whole load alone, and you can finally delegate instead of carrying everything. Your donors stop feeling like targets. They feel seen, they feel understood, they feel partnered with, and your organization stops leaving money on the table. Your revenue stabilizes and grows rather than seeing that up and down every single year when a couple of donors drop off. This is what's possible for you right now. I will say this, when we talk about implementing a system, it's not rocket science here. It's not complicated. It's not expensive, but it's not too time consuming, but it does require clarity and intention about where you're currently in the 6 stages and to implement a system. It requires discipline. It requires a plan. It requires someone who understands the psychology and nuance of what it takes to install a new system. It requires expertise. I know we are living in a post-expertise era these days, but I believe that expertise still matters. And when you have someone with expertise, you are counseled away from making a wrong move and counseled away from damaging a relationship. So this is why it matters. You need someone who's done this before, and you need someone who knows how to make it work. So this is where I've come in. So for those of you who are joining us, I am Ria Wong. I've spent 20 plus years in this space. I have raised millions of dollars. I've closed $1 million gifts personally. I've tripled major donors. I've built boards that actually help. So there is a difference between knowing what the system is and installing it into an organization that is replicable over time. Installing a new system is nuanced. It requires expertise. It requires someone who's done it before. And that's where big ask gifts come in. How I help people install is this is my signature program. And the simplest way to understand it is this. If you're a board member asking about revenue, asking about reserves, asking about future resources, if there's pressure that your exec feels around hitting revenue targets, or if growth and expansion is being discussed, but the funding of how to get there isn't clear, this is a system that solves for it. So we're not adding more activity, we're building the structure that makes revenue more predictable and gives the board a clear role in driving it. So the Big Ask Gift program is what I think of as an implementation partnership. We walk alongside your exec to build these systems. We build board lanes so your board members know what to do. We help you build an actual pipeline so you know where the revenue is coming from. We help you structure a qualification process so you're actually talking to people who want to convert. And we build a stewardship rhythm so donors are not stalling out. And then we embed it because I know as board members, I'll speak for myself. I know that as a board member, I am secretly low key anxious about any one of my staff members leaving because I know that means they leave with all of the relationships and all of the institutional knowledge. And that, frankly, is not a sustainable way to build an organization. And the other thing is, and this should freak you out a little bit, the average tenure of a development director is about 18 months. So what's interesting, and I'm sure that you've seen this too, is it takes about 18 months to figure out whether or not the development person that you hired is worth a damn. I don't know about you, but I don't have 18 months to wait. And so when we install a system, we can see very quickly where the revenue is coming from and what the pipeline looks like. Because without a system, without clarity, you're going to be asking the same things and worrying about the same things year after year after year, quarter after quarter. So let me talk a little bit about some of the things I've heard. People say, like, well, why can't we just figure this out ourselves? Why can't we just chat GPT it? Frankly, you can. Based on what you've heard today, you can certainly try to jerry rig it and chat GPT it or whatever. But here's the risk. The 6-stage model is simple, but it is nuanced. So if you skip a stage, you damage the relationship. If you brief a board member the wrong way, they ask the wrong way. If you misunderstand where a donor is in the journey, you move too quickly. So one misstep means that a $50,000 relationship becomes a $5,000 relationship. And I've seen it happen. Then an organization calls me to fix the mess, which is harder and more expensive than if you'd got it right the first time. So I'm not saying that you can't do this yourselves. I'm saying that the risk is higher than you think and the consequences are permanent. Here's another thing here's another thing I sometimes hear is, this sounds complicated. Like I said, the 6 stages aren't complicated, they're just strategic. So right now, it feels like you're kind of random, you're hoping someone gives, or you're reactive. You're asking when you're desperate, or you're transactional, you're extracting instead of partnering. So with the 6 stages, you'll be intentional. Each stage builds on the last. You're proactive. You know where the donors are. You're relational. You have partnerships instead of transactions. So frankly, it's not more complicated. It's less complicated. You're doing this on purpose. And again, my team will be collecting the Q&As. We'll get to it at the end. I think we're going to have a very fulsome Q&A, so I'm excited about that. All right, I want to just walk you through a couple of examples of what happens when you're intentional about this. So this is Rosemary. I worked with her a couple of years ago. She started with a small giver of $500 per year. And because she installed the system, because she was intentional, because she had clear guidance and advice about how to move this person through, this person now gives $100K annually. So that's a 200x growth in one relationship. Or Amy, who has been with us since August, she closed a 25K gift in 3 weeks with being with us. 2 more soon after. She blew her she's an MGO for the Polar Bears International. She blew her goal for the year out of the water. I think she was responsible for raising 1.3 in her portfolio. She ended up raising 1.8 in 9 months. And then she also got a new 1.1 donation from a brand new donor. And even small teams like Andrew Murphy, who runs the Wisconsin Inmate Education Association, he's just a delightful human. He came to me as a new fundraiser, didn't really know what to do. With the system in place, he raised more in 6 months than he had the entire previous fiscal year. So we have, and this is just 3 of dozens of examples we have of what can happen when you put a system in place strategically. When we're working together, you as your board member, you get clarity. You're not confused. You're strategic. Your staff gets relief because they know that fundraising isn't carried on the head and the back of one person. And your donors experience partnership instead of extraction. Your revenue starts to grow, not someday, but right now. And you have the confidence of knowing that you're doing it right because you have a guide who's been there, done that, seen it all, made the mistakes. What actually changes within the organization is that you know where you're fit. So you're not trying to pull people in at the last minute. You're focused on the right donors, so you're not spreading your effort across everyone, and time actually goes where it converts. You're not getting diluted across activities that don't convert, like, the new event or the new campaign. You're actually being strategic. Your momentum doesn't stall halfway through the cycle because there's a structure holding it. And frankly, you're not rebuilding every single quarter. So that's the difference. The outcomes we talked about, reserves, predictable revenue, growth, without these outcomes just don't happen. This doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intention. So at this point, the question is not whether you need a system. The question is what this system looks like inside your organization right now. So if this feels like it's right for you, if you are curious about how this could look in your organization, I'd like to invite you to apply to the donor growth evaluation call. So what happens, you'll apply. We'll take a look at your situation, and if it makes sense, we'll invite you into the conversation. In that conversation, we look at what's actually happening, what needs to change, and what your next move should be. And frankly, that next move might or might not be determining if Big Ask Gifts is right for your organization. To be honest, we don't invite everyone to participate in Big Ask Gift. We only invite you to participate and join Big Ask Gift if we can see at least $100,000 in revenue within the first quarter. Either way, you're going to leave with clarity on this call and a clear direction about where to move. So just to be clear, this is not a high pressure conversation. This is a straightforward conversation because frankly, as boards, as EDs, you're already dealing with enough pressure. We want to help you to decide what that next step is for you. Because the truth is, and as a board member, I will say this, I'm asking a lot of questions of my exec. I want to know answers about what's our quarter going to look like? Can we commit to that strategy? Is a capital campaign a good idea? And without a system, without clarity, without data, I'm flying blind. I have no idea, but I need my exec to have answers and I need a system I can count on. I need a plan. I need to know how this moves forward. And this is exactly what we've worked through on this call. So if you feel like this is for you, here is what we do. The application link is in the chat. You're going to click it. You're going to fill it out. It's brief. This gives us context on your organization. And based on your answers, you're going to be guided to the next step. So if we choose to move forward, you're going to be invited to book a time. Oopsies. Oops. My goodness. Okay, here we go. You're going to book a time. And then what we can do is that you'll have a conversation with Andra, who is a person on our team who leads these phone calls. And again, let's talk about what you get on the call, because I know you're busy. I know your exec is busy. I want to make sure that you know that this is a good use of your time. What happens in a call is essentially it's a diagnostic call. This is a call where you get real value. So the value is in the process. You're going to leave with a clear diagnosis. We're going to look at the 6 stages. Based on what we're hearing, we're going to give you a prioritized path forward. And that prioritized path forward is going to be a decision. It's not going to be another quarter. We should probably fix this board engagement thing because, frankly, when May hits, you're managing the commitments you already made, not designing the system you actually need. In my mind, December is the deadline, y'all. That is when 30% of gifts come in. And you know this. Right now, we're at the end of April. We still have enough time to implement a system. But the closer we get to December, the more we're going to be in panic mode. And I hate panic mode. I like being strategic. Now, one of the questions I get, if you're a board member, you might be thinking, I'm not quite sure how to get everyone on board, whether that's other board members or whether that's the exec. That is exactly why you should book this call, because we can help you. Right now, based on this presentation, you'd be going back to your exec or going back to your other board members trying to explain something that you don't quite fully understand. So on this call, we not only walk you through what this could look like for your organization, but we also help you with assets and with other materials that you might need to make the case. We help you to explain it in a way that makes sense. So if that is interesting to you, you don't need to have all the answers. Just book the call or apply for the call, and we can help you with all of that. And just to give you a sense of what's happening, I am a small boutique firm. I don't have a huge company behind me. So we only have 10 evaluation calls that we have made available for people on this call. So if this is something that you are interested in, I would just go ahead and book in order to get your time. The people who book on this call right now are the conversations that we are prioritizing first. After the 10, we have to start a waiting list because frankly, we just don't have the bandwidth. So if this is something that you're thinking about, if this is resonating, I would just go ahead, open the link and apply. You can also scan the QR code. And I will say this, people usually start applying while we're on the call. So if you're thinking about it, I would just go ahead and open it now. And I think we have people applying while we're on this call. So as we see the names come in, the team, if we can just make sure that we note who is applying so that we can make sure that we have spots available for folks who are interested. All right, last bit of business for me before we get to Q&A. I want to leave you with this. You joined this board because you believe in something. You believe that the mission mattered. You believe people deserve to be served. You didn't join to feel guilty. You joined to make a difference. And there is a way to do that, a way that feels authentic to you, a way that works, a way that doesn't burn your relationships, a way where your board is clear, your donors feel like partners, and your mission gets funded. That way exists. We've seen it. I've demonstrated this with the hundreds of nonprofits I've worked with. So apply for the call. We're excited to help you. And I genuinely believe that this is the future of fundraising because I think the old way doesn't work and it makes me feel icky. I don't like feeling icky. Now, we're not promising magic here, but we do genuinely believe that we can help you see what is possible. So apply for the call, we'll get clear, we'll move forward. And remember, the board you build in April is the same board that you're still going to have in December. So let's make it count as we get to the year end. Okay. That was a lot of information. We still have 30 minutes, but actually, I'm committed to staying on the call until I answer every single question that my team has collected. By the way, thank you for sticking with me. Let's give you the gift that we promised. Udosh, can you drop the board fundraising playbook here? All right, Kirsten, I say that you need to call, so need to jump. So let's get to your question first so we can make sure to answer. All right. By the way, in the chat, download the Board All In playbook. That is my gift to you. I'm going to stop my share and we're going to get to some Q&A. All right. By the way, the Q&A is usually like the best part of the show. So, all right, let me see how I stop sharing my screen. All right. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Okay, let's jump into this. And if more questions come up, throw it in the chat. Like I said, I'm committed to answering all questions. You are welcome to stick around as long as you want. Okay, Kirsten said, can you model or explain the solicitation verbiage? All right, Kirsten, I may need a little bit more color on exactly what you mean by that, but let me walk through the stages. So I'll just give you an example. All right, let's say I'm going to call him Bob. So let's say we've identified Bob as a potential prospect for us. Bob opens our emails. Bob has been to volunteer opportunities. Bob has given to other organizations kind of like ours. The first step is that we walk through pre-qualification, either via a survey or via a conversation. And we say, hey, it seems like Bob has hit the five different criteria that we're looking for. Bob has capacity. By the way, major gifts come out of gifts of assets, not of income, right? So major gift prospects, I'm looking for things like, do you have a DAF? Do you have a family foundation? Are you interested in giving stock? Are you interested in leaving us in your will? Are you interested in leaving us real estate, right? Gifts of assets, not of income. So does he have capacity? Does he have a reason for giving? Bob could give to a million things. What is the reason for Bob? Maybe Bob has been personally affected by this issue. Great, that's the reason. Third thing, do we have a relationship with Bob? Does anybody know Bob? Or is Bob a random person that we've never reached out to? Fourth, is the timing right? Timing is everything, and you know this, right? Everything else could be true, but if the timing is wrong, I don't know, maybe Bob is having a health issue. Maybe Bob is moving out of the country. Maybe Bob is renovating his house. I don't know, whatever. Timing is everything. So is the timing right for Bob? And then fifth thing, do we have permission to reach out to Bob? If these five things are true, then we have a conversation with Bob where we're moving him through a full qualification process. In the full qualification, we say, Bob, you've shown interest. You seem like this isn't important to you. My role as a fundraiser is to help our donors achieve their wildest philanthropic dreams. I want to understand, Bob, what is your why? And I want to help you to achieve that why. Bob, would you allow me to put together a plan for how we might engage together with the understanding that if and when the time is right, we would co-create a proposal for funding, but not before you're ready and not before it feels right to you. How does that sound, Bob? At that point, Bob can either say yes or no. It's permission. If Bob says yes, I say, fantastic, Bob. Let me get back to you next Friday with a plan. Then Friday, I have a plan. I present it to Bob. Bob approves the plan, and the plan is calendarized. So there are touch points. It looks like maybe in July, we go on a site visit. In August, I don't know, we meet the board members, whatever it is. In the course of that engagement plan, I say to Bob, hey, Bob, we've gotten to know each other. Is now the right time for us to discuss a proposal for funding? Bob then gets to say yes or no. In that proposal for funding, it's a conversation. Bob, what of the things that you've seen really excite you? What kind of impact are you interested in making? What kind of capacity feels right to you right now? So by the time Bob sees the proposal, we've already talked about it. This is not a surprise, right? We've discussed this. So the solicitation isn't scary because it has been a process that he has been a part of. There's been total transparency. And then once Bob writes the check or transfer the fund or whatever we do, then we move into stewardship. That's when that mirrors our engagement roadmap, right? We calendarize. Bob, what would make you feel that your impact has made a difference? What kind of things are exciting to you? Because I think often the mistake that we make is that we create cultivation and stewardship without the donor. Like we just come up with these random things that we think that they might like without ever asking, like, do you want to be on a site visit? Do you want to come to the gala? Do you want to do this volunteer thing? I see Becca nodding. I hope that's at me, right? But without a conversation, like, how would we know that? So this whole process is about transparency, it's about consent, and it's about structure. And as a fundraiser, because you know what the steps are, everyone knows, right? You can actually say to your board, okay, we've got 10 people right now in the cultivation, 10 people who have accepted our engagement roadmap who are on the pipeline. And by the way, we have also had preliminary discussions. So now we know that we've got like $1 million in the pipeline based on who has opted into the process, right? So it's not this throwing spaghetti. It's not this like hoping. It is actually a process. Okay. Did that answer your question, Kirsten? That was a very long-winded.
Yeah, is perfect. Great verbiage. And that's kind of what I was looking for. Thank you.
Perfect. Great. All right. Let's keep going. Ba, 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 ba. Okay.
I'll share
David
them.
asks,
Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Udish, go ahead.
I'll share
Yeah.
them as they kept coming. So I'll share
Okay.
the old ones first. So yeah.
Okay, great. Uh, okay. Udish says, Anne says, how do you ask if they give permission? Okay, and hopefully that explanation just answered your question. Like you literally ask permission, you literally ask consent to move forward. And the thing that I like about this new model, and by the way, I have to say, this is not my model, which is why I can say that it's genius. This is courtesy of my friend Greg Warner, who is a brilliant marketer. But he, like a lot of people, felt tired of being transacted, felt tired of like not knowing what the next step was. So the system that we built feels much more akin. Has anyone here ever like hired a lawyer or a financial advisor, anything like that? Right? Yeah. Yes, no. Okay. Think of yourself as a philanthropic advisor. You are guiding your donor through a process and you're not weird about it. You're not squid. Like I can 100% guarantee you that your financial advisor does not feel weird at all about asking you the most intimate details of your financial life. And we're not necessarily going that deep, but we have to, as philanthropic advisors, feel totally comfortable asking our donors, what do you want to achieve and how can I help you do that? Right? And let me walk you through this process. Not, oh, I hope that you take my call because at some point I'm just going to spring a random ask on you. Like nobody likes that. Everyone likes to feel in control. Okay. Let's see. What's the next question here?
Lindsay Molander.
Lindsay says, how do we help the board think to the people in their network or board struggles the step before this where they will say, we don't know anyone? Okay, Lindsay, this is a really good question. A lot of times board members feel nervous about that because they'll say something like, well, we don't know any rich people, right? Like, we don't know any rich people. Stop. We're not necessarily looking at rich people first. Instead, let's start from the place of who could be really passionate about our work? Who of the 5 friends that you know could be someone that we could talk to? And again, because you're a fundraiser and you are clear that you are not pressuring anyone, that you are not moving forward without consent, you are arming your board with just a conversation about like, hey, could you just reach out to these 5 friends and talk about your passion for the work and see if they'd be interested in a further conversation. No pressure, no commitment. So that would be one thing. This second way I might go about it is, and I don't love this way, but you can do this. Go on LinkedIn, look at your board members. You can do a second-degree search. Come to them with a list, because if you ask me like, who do you know? My first thought is like, I don't know anybody. Guys, I have 25,000 followers on LinkedIn. Clearly, I know people, right? Do the work for me. Make it easy to do business. Come to me with a list of 10 people that you have already identified that at least LinkedIn says that I know, and say, hey, Ria, of these 10 folks, like, who do you think might be interested in our work? Who do you actually know? Then we can call the list. So that would be the second thing. The third thing, and this is a strategy I teach, is a salon-style dinner as a way to open a relationship. Write this down. Your job is not to close a gift, it is to open a relationship. Now, Lindsay, back to your point, oftentimes when I hear board members say, well, we don't know anybody, That is a red herring. What they're really saying is, I don't know, I haven't counted other people's money. I don't trust what you're going to do with my contacts. I haven't had these meaningful conversations with the people closest to me. That's the I don't know anybody is actually the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole bunch of questions underneath that, and that's what we help you get to. Thumbs up, Lindsay, if that answered your question.
That's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lindsay. All right, let me see. Next question. Katie says, could you give me an example of how you position that permission component in qualification? Transparently, we keep contact to get to know you and to work together when the time is right. Okay, so yes, Katie, I don't know, but again, the verbiage that you use is really important here. We are in service to our donors. So the mistake that a lot of us make as fundraisers, and I get it, is we're very organization centric, right? We live, breathe, think about our organization every day. What this work asks you to do is to get outside of yourself, step into the shoes of your donor. You're not about, oh, I'm going to talk about my organization, I'm going to pitch, I'm going to talk about all the things that we do. No, what you're doing instead is that you are stepping into the shoes to help your donor achieve the thing that they want to achieve. Maybe they want legacy. Maybe they want to be a part of a community. Maybe they're looking for inspiration. You don't know what they're looking for if you haven't asked the question. So even the way that you phrase this, Katie, transparency, we keep in contact to get to know you and to work together when the time is right for a proposal. That is not how I would phrase it. First of all, you are creating an actual plan that is calendarized, right? So this plan is in service of my donor to understand the work and understand what matters most to them. So remember, we are in service to our donor. This is not about us, this is about them. Once you have the calendarized plan, and this is what I teach too, we actually literally call it the engagement roadmap. It's literally a roadmap that lists out all of the different touch points. Along the roadmap, we're always checking in. Hey, how is that feeling? Does this feel right? How was that visit? What resonated with you? Along that plan, we have check-ins to assess when does it feel right. So the donor is clear about what are we doing, as opposed to like, oh, Katie's just randomly calling me for coffee again. No, we have a plan. I know why Katie's calling me, because we agreed back in April that we were going to do this in June. Okay. And then because Katie now becomes my trusted philanthropic advisor, I can transparently say, like, yeah, Katie, now would be a good time. Yeah, I've really gotten to fall in love with this organization. Yeah, I see where my gift is. Yeah, I see what program might be of highest impact to me and my family. Now would be the time for us to talk about that, right? So this is a sort of nuance that you have to have when approaching these high stakes, high potential conversations. Okay, next question, please.
So Allison just left. I told her you'll send over the answer. So if you want, I can just move on
Okay,
to the next one.
yeah, let's just move on.
He one's from David.
David, how do you make them feel good? Okay, so David, the 6-step process you've used based on a successful transaction you had. So basically, David, I hope that answered your question, what I just walked through, but what I can tell you is what came most recent. So one of my clients, Kristen, closed I think it was $150,000 gift over 3 years with a donor that had been giving like small, like $2,000 a year. But by going through this process that we had discussed, and by the way, Kristen so she works at We Are Family. It's a LGBTQ organization in South Carolina. And by following this process, and these are professional philanthropists, right? These are people who had a family foundation. They literally told her, Kristen, this was the most, what did they say? This was the best giving experience we ever had. Why? Because she was clear, because she was transparent, because it was consent-based. So to put yourselves in the shoes of the donor, and a lot of the board members on this call are themselves donors, I would imagine, I hope. It's a completely different process. It slows it down. It is a process of meaning and purpose and transparency versus the other way. Does that help, David? Let me know if you need more clarity on that one. All right. Thanks, Elizabeth. Good to see you. I hope that we see your application. All right. Robin says this info is shared, but probably should spend time processing it together during. Robin, I'm not sure I understand the question. This info is shared, but probably should spend time processing it together during a board.
That was a reply. Hi, Ria. That was a reply to one of your stages talking about the financial
Oh,
and the,
yes.
yeah, all of the materials. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, Robin. Yeah. Here's the other thing. At the board meetings, when you have a process, you can actually ask better questions because you have essentially a scoreboard, you have a pipeline, you have dates. Like, so now you're all seeing the same data and you can ask better questions. Like you can ask a question like, hey, based on where this person is in the stage, why do we think that this gift is going to close next month? Shouldn't we say that it's going to close in the next 90 days, not this month? Oh yeah, that makes sense. So you can actually adjust the pipeline in real time. And as a board member, you're getting real data and real clarity about what's actually in the pipeline. All right, cool. Next question. Lindsay asks, how do I, as a board member, address these stages of this process to our staff when they have their own systems in place that may be broken? Lindsay, that is such a good question. So, luckily for you, friend, I do educational webinars twice a month. So, what I would say is get them on the mailing list. They will get an invitation to the next webinar I'm doing because, as they say, knowledge is just the first step. Like a lot of us don't actually know that we have a failed system. It's only when you pull back the curtain, you're like, oh yeah, this actually doesn't work, that you're like, maybe I should do something differently. So, Lindsay, the other thing that you could do, Lindsay, is like book the call, bring your exec. We can talk through it. Andra is there to help you to get some clarity about it. Okay. Next question. Paige says, this is all well and good, assuming an ideal situation where people have money to give. We are in a horrible economic uncertainty until due to the political climate and choice, we need other options and ideas on who to go to and how to get funded. Many big corps aren't giving to smaller, under 1 million nonprofits. They don't care about us. Okay, it feels like that is a statement, not a question. But here's what I will say, Paige. When we look at the data, even in downturns, actually, particularly in downturns, we actually see increased generosity. We can look at the 2008 crisis as an example. We can look at the pandemic as an example. And the truth is, even though we're seeing a lot of turbulence in the economic system, what that means is that disproportionately affects people who are in lower income brackets. I mean, I hate to say it, but like the people of significant wealth who are able to give major gifts, and by major gifts, that's subjective, but I'm talking about like 10K and up, first of all, are not affected by the price of eggs or gasoline. The stock market is still doing very well, and likely they have DAFs. So the money already exists. The question is, how are you going to unlock it? So I don't want to be callous. I know a lot of people are experiencing a lot of strife right now. And I think we also have to recognize that there is a portion of folks who are major donor potentials who are not as affected as other folks. And therefore, like when we look at giving overall, so I think in 2025, my numbers are off, but essentially it's a little less than 600 billion given annually. Of the 600 billion given, 74% of that were given by individuals. And of the 74% given by individuals, the vast majority of it, I would say, is like a 90-10, that 10% of that group is responsible for 90% of the giving. So all to say, Paige, like the money is out there. It's a question of how you are strategically unlocking it. Um, okay, Heather, I'm not going to recap it, but we are going to send a replay, so I don't want to recap here to bore everyone. Okay. Haley says, I think it'd be helpful to talk about how boards and staff can collaborate on these steps. 100% Haley. This is not meant to be executed in a vacuum. This is an opportunity for the board and the staff to collaborate, but you can't collaborate if you don't have a system. You need a clear system in place before you can collaborate. All right. Paige says, okay. Kimberly says, what about a new nonprofit starting from scratch? So Kimberly, this is not a program that is designed for new nonprofits. So if you're a new nonprofit, I would say my focus would be on building a consistent individual donor base. So do you have people giving consistently over time, year after year? Then you introduce a mid-tier system. And then once that is rocking and rolling consistently, then you get into the major gifts. So, however, we do have resources for folks that are just starting out. So if that's something you're thinking about, I would go ahead and apply for a call. Okay, David. So David, question about, actually, let me get to Alan and then David, I see that coming through. Alan says, do you do corporate donor scenario Zoom lectures? No, Alan, I do not do corporate. I focus specifically on major gifts. I'm a specialist in that regard. However, if you are looking for corporate, I have someone who I know does corporate. I'm not remembering his information off the top of my head, but send an email to my team and I'll get that information to you. Okay. What other questions are coming through? All right, thank you all for being with me. 66 of you are still here, so I'm hanging with you as long as you're hanging with me. I'm here for all of it. Okay. How do you overcome longtime board members refusing to engage in any of these steps because they believe they contribute enough in other ways? Well, so I don't know who asked this, but this is a juicy question. So when we think about board members and changing behavior, or let's say not board members, anybody changing behavior, I tend to think of it as a U shape, right? You have your early adopters, people who are going to jump on board. Then you have the middle group that will move. And then you have the laggards or people who are never going to move. Now, the first thing is, I would say, I would wonder when these people were recruited on the board, what they were told. Because if they were recruited without the expectation that they were supposed to be engaged in fundraising, if they were never told that, then we can hardly blame them for not being engaged because it's a bait and switch. So that's the first thing I would say, like, okay, what did we tell them when they first came on board? The second thing is I would identify the folks who are willing to jump into this new model, willing to open the doors, willing to engage in the new system. Typically what happens with folks who are resistant, one of three things usually happen. One, they step up to the plate, like, oh, I don't want to be the last one. They ghost, like very quietly, like, oh, if I don't say anything, like they may not realize, they may not notice that I'm not doing anything. Or the third thing is they'll leave mad. So my point here is that you don't start with the people who are resistant. You start with the coalition of the willing, and then you figure out if you can bring those people along. Okay. Did that answer your question?
This was from Morgan.
Okay.
The previous question was from Morgan. Morgan Moore.
Morgan. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
just trying to keep up with all.
Yeah, thank you. That did answer my question. Yeah, thanks very much.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Okay, hey Terry, good to see you. So Terry says one of our issues that our boards don't have philanthropic dreams, they just want to support the. Okay, so Terry, feels like you and I could talk about this on Slack since you're in the program. But one of our issues that our donors don't have philanthropic dreams, they just want to support. Okay, here's the thing, Terry. Everyone has a philanthropic dream, even if you don't necessarily think of it as a philanthropic dream. What do I mean by that? A philanthropic dream can be, I just want to make a difference. A philanthropic dream can be, I want to be part of this community. A philanthropic dream could be, I just want to make an impact. A philanthropic dream could be, I want to show my kids how to be philanthropic people and to be stewards of our community. We all have a dream. You just need to figure out what their dream is. Some people have big dreams. I want to eradicate hunger in 50 years. That's a big dream. Some people have smaller dreams. Like, I just want to show my kids what it means to be a philanthropic. Everyone has a reason. Your job is to find out what their reason is, find out the why, and then give them more of that why. Feed that why. Does that make sense? And Terry, if you have questions, we can talk about that offline.
Yeah, that
And
sounds good. Thank you.
And Terry, in your case, like, of course they have a reason. In your case, I'm like, I want to like save the animals. Like, that's my philanthropic dream. So, like, don't tell me your donors don't have philanthropic. We all have dreams.
And maybe some understanding the language, like the conversations go very differently depending on whether people understand the language of giving versus, they don't understand.
But the thing is, they don't have to understand the language of giving. They should just understand the language of, like, what do you want? Like, you want to save the polar bears? Fantastic. Let's talk about that. We all know what we want. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks. Yeah,
we
thank you.
can take that. Yeah, take this offline if we want. All right. Any other questions coming up?
No, but Joseph here raised his hand, so maybe, I don't know if he's on the
Joseph,
iPhone,
do you have a
so-
question?
Hi, yes, I do. Thanks for
Hi.
being here, chatting with us for so long and sticking out to the very
Of
end. I had
course.
to jump off for a moment, so if you already
No
answered
worries.
this, I apologize. I'm a
No
board member
worries.
for a nonprofit now for about a handful of years, and we've struggled mightily with an individual donor campaign. So I feel like we've done a lot of like some of the what we'll call low hanging fruit amongst
Mhm.
the board members, which is like friends that we know, people that are passionate about
Uh-huh.
our work. We're
Uh-huh.
like a writing workshop, like we use memoirs and people share their stories. It's like a nonprofit
fun.
social justice mission. It's really great. But
Yep.
now we've kind of like exhausted those options and now we're like stuck. Like we don't know who else to kind of outreach to. And this is just
Okay.
for individual donors.
Yep.
And I'm like an
Okay.
extrovert. So I love, cold calls and all
I
those
can
things
tell.
that
I
we're
can
told
tell.
not to do.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
that's what the
Okay.
feedback I'm looking for. Thanks. Yeah.
How big is your mailing list?
Oh, we have constant contact. It's around 4,000.
Okay. So Joseph, book a call. We're going to talk about this, but essentially,
Yay.
your future donors are in your mailing list. You just don't know it. So you're literally sitting on a gold mine because you don't have a system to, I like to say, shake the tree, because you don't have a system for people to identify themselves within your mailing list. You're literally stepping over diamonds. And so book a call. We'll talk through it with your team, but essentially at a 4,000 person mailing list, because the other thing you have to remember with major donors, like, you don't need 100 major donors. You need like 10, right?
Right.
Where are you based, by the way?
We're on Long Island, New York, but we do the kind of the tri-state area, but our
Joseph,
home base
yeah.
is Long Island.
There's a lot of money in Long Island, friend. Like, I can
trust. I tried to reach out to the Cohens just because I know the Cohens are on Long Island, and
you don't even need to do that. You don't even need to do that. Your major donors are sitting in your database right now. You just need a strategy for how to move them forward. So book a call. We'll walk through that.
Okay.
Because here's the truth. A lot of us are out here and we're like, well, like, if I could just meet Mackenzie Scott / Oprah / like whatever,
Right, exactly.
like philanthropist, it's not even that serious. Like, first of all, good luck getting them. Second of all, you have not fully exhausted your list. You just don't have a strategy to unlock it. It's almost like I always use this analogy. It's like, like, you're out here being like, oh man, if only I had a Ferrari. But you're like, but you don't even drive faster than 10 miles per hour. What are you going to do with a Ferrari? Like, you need to like start getting on the road here. Then
Totally.
like when you're zooming, maybe we can talk about a Ferrari, but like, you
Yeah.
haven't even put the Honda in second gear yet. Like, let's do that first. Okay.
And Rita, I'll let you know quickly that we are doing the process of downloading our executive director's brain and putting it on spreadsheets. So we do have like this list of all of our, essentially constant contact contacts. And then
Okay.
anyway,
All right.
we'll chat.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Rhea.
Yeah, this is like a very specific, but yeah, book a call. We'll chat through it. All right. Any other questions? Okay,
Here's a
let's
big one
see.
from Michelle. The
All right,
student's
let's
chart.
see. Michelle says, I'm a 13th month near the job, director of development, or org has the bulk of our funding via state contract. Yeah, yep. Our board is passionate. We just need a better plan. Yep. And allow for growth in non-contract funds given the situation. Okay. So Michelle, this is like super specific. But what I would be, again, I would need to know this. So the couple things I'd be looking at. One, do we have a database or a mailing list of people? If we don't, I would start building that first. Simultaneously, what I would be doing is talking to board members, again, build the coalition of the willing, to see who would be willing to engage in this. Even if it's like, who'd be willing to host a dinner party? I don't know how many board members that you have, but let's say, I'm going to use round numbers here. Let's say you have 10 board members. Let's say half of them, 5 of them are willing to host a dinner for you of 10 people each. That's 50 new prospects, right? So the work of building a prospect list is not overnight. It's not sexy. I think people think like I can, go viral online and like make a bajillion dollars doing an ice bucket challenge. That's just not the reality. That's the exception, not the rule. And then I would also be looking at, so I would look at the mailing list. I would look at board members who want to be engaged in opening up doors. I would be probably looking at your social media if you have it. And then in terms of education, and this is what we help you within the program, I literally do there's a resources for training your board in understanding this new process. Because again, this is a new model. A lot of board members just have never even been exposed to any model, let alone a new model. So part of it is like, they have to understand what this new world is and then where they fit into it. So Michelle, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
it's a good start. I appreciate that. I have a follow-up question, actually, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because my question is, I was going to start a call with you, put in the information, but our non-contract funds are at around 500,000 with 4.5 being contracted, state contracted.
Got it.
So
what?
we're just below it. So I didn't know if it would be
Yeah,
important for me to
what?
call and see.
Go ahead and book a call. My team can walk you through this, and on the call we can determine like what the right fit is for you. I would just go ahead and book it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Yeah, of course. All right. Sheila asks, I think we have time for maybe 2 more. So Sheila asks, what do you advise when the executive director does not loan fund develop no department or committee to have any contact with the board and does not encourage them to be involved? And he keeps telling them this is not unusual. Everyone says this is not appropriate or best practice. Shella, this sounds like a very specific information. However, I will say it is the rare executive director who does not want the board engaged in fundraising. It's often the opposite problem, which is that they're dying to have the board engaged in fundraising. So again, I would need to know more specific. And again, the other question is like, if the ED is bringing in the money and he doesn't want the board involved, then like, vaya con Dios, like fine. But I think as a board member, I would be asking questions like, well, 1, what is your process? Because we need transparency. And 2, if you're not bringing in the funds, then I, as a board member, have a legal responsibility to assess the exec. So their job is not necessarily to micromanage, but it is to assess executive director performance. And if executive director performance is not up to par, i.e., they're not working collaboratively, they're not bringing in the necessary funds, then it's a different conversation. So I don't know if it answered your question, Chella. Obviously, I'd need more details on that. All right, any last questions? We have 2 minutes left. I'm here for it. Okay, last question. We are transitioning to a service model of revenue to more diverse. We are fiscally sound. We also have a brand new board, many of whom are new to board fundraising. Don't know if that's a question, Amanda, but that sounds great.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Morgan says we're a small nonprofit with one full-time staff member already overstretched. Is there an alternative to staff making all the asks? Capacity is a major barrier. Morgan, yeah, absolutely. So part of it is that you need to have a system and then you need to put everyone in their lanes. So if it looks like, hey, I'm one person, I can't do all the solicitation, then we need to figure out who is that other person. Is it a board member? Is it another staff member? Like whoever it may be. And then we need to train them. We can't just let them go willy-nilly. Like I have one organization that has a board member who literally is a freelancer who will just like ask random people. And I'm like, cool, that sounds great in practice. This person's out here asking people for money, but it damages their reputation because they don't know who he's asking. They don't know what he's saying. They don't know who is an open loop. Like we cannot have board members out here freelancing. We need to communicate so that we are all on the same page about the process to protect the reputation of the organization and of the board member. Okay. So yes, this is not laws. Like you can adapt this for your own nonprofit. The only law that I would say is clarity, 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 transparency. If it's not going to be your job, then it has to be clearly someone else's job and they have to be trained on said job. All right, friends. We are at time. Thank you for sticking with me. It was a pleasure to see you. I hope that we can help you. I'm passionate about nonprofits. I'm passionate about making sure that we stop the bad fundraising. And find me online. I'm newsletters, LinkedIn. I have a podcast. I'm love to hear from you. So thank you, everyone. Have a good Tuesday. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.